Hi, I'm Christian.
And I'm Angela, and we are married
And bored. Hey guys, welcome to a very special episode of the Married and Bored podcast.
Super exciting. It's kind of like dessert. It's like we gave you the main course with our normal episode, and now we're throwing in a little bonus dessert.
Yeah, we talk about games a lot during the week and in between episodes about what do we want to talk about next, what games do we want to play. And sometimes what we talk about just doesn't warrant like a whole episode. But this one we kind of felt like we needed to just because of the times that we're in.
Yeah, the current global situation.
Yeah.
Now, we are going to be talking all about solo gaming this episode. Obviously, we cannot touch on every single solo game out there.
No.
Not only do we not own every single solo game out there, but we would just... Yet, Christian says. But we wouldn't have time to do that. So we're going to be talking about a few and just about general solo things. And I think one of the biggest questions I had about doing a solo episode was that it's so very in contrast to what we do in our normal podcast, because we talk about it as a couple and we learn about each other in our marriage. And when you're playing solo, you do not play with anyone.
No, you're just alone. This is the podcast version of, okay, Angela, you're alone on a desert island or locked in a house in quarantine, and you have to bring 3 board games with you. What do you bring?
Exactly. But then it kept coming up in our conversations because of our current household situation where Christian hasn't been as into playing games or maybe as frequently as he used to. So I've been playing solo. Also, with the kids at home from school, I've been playing solo with the kids. Like they help me. They don't understand the strategy, but they move my meeple and
No, yeah, they like rolling dice and writing down scores and moving stuff around. So it's always fun for them to see what game is mom playing.
Yeah, and maybe you are quarantining or sheltering at home with just yourself. And so this would be very appropriate.
Yeah.
To the current situation.
Yeah, and so if you are a listener of ours and you are used to what we normally do, we are not doing any of that.
We're breaking the mold.
So we're just gonna let's just jump right into this, Angela.
Okay.
I think what we should start off with first is saying that the solo board gamer in this house is you.
It is me. Yes. So I'll probably be doing the majority of the talking.
Well, I'll be here with quips and whips and
as I would expect nothing less from you.
Yeah, so it's just kind of funny that, or maybe interesting is the better word, that you really latched on to a solo gamer to be one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Words are hard.
Words are hard. It's too bad that this is a podcast.
I know. That's all we do is words. So, tell me a few things on why you really started to enjoy solo gaming, and as you started doing it, what drew you in more?
Okay. Well, one of the things that I really like about solo gaming is that it can keep gaming going throughout the week or in situations where either you're out of the house, like with friends or doing something else, or if you're on a business trip for work, I can still game. Mm-hmm. And so that's probably where it started, is that I had time back when our oldest was our only.
Yes. And
she would nap for 2.5, 3 hours sometimes in the middle of the day.
Those were the days.
I mean, come on. Now, not every day, but certain days I would have really no things to catch up on at that time, so I would just sit down and play a solo game, and it started with the Lord of the Rings card game.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. My earliest memory
Let's go down the memory lane.
Of solo board games for you is that Lord of the Rings LCG.
Yeah.
That was probably like the third game we ever bought together.
Yeah.
On this,
journey,
modern board game adventure. And I remember coming home from work and you had like it all laid out, and I was like, what did you just do?
I had enjoyed our play experience so much when we played it, and I remember just thinking one day during our daughter's nap time, like, well, why can't I just play by myself? Like, I guess it probably, I don't remember this, but I'm probably fought with myself mentally a little bit about like, I'm about to just sit down and play this Lord of the Rings card game by myself.
Nerd alert!
But I quickly got over that and haven't looked back since. So that's where it started.
That's great.
Another thing that draws me into solo games is that I can control everything.
That doesn't surprise me.
I have the power and I have all the decision making in my hands. That can be a drawback sometimes. And of course, would I give up power to have a social experience of other people around the table? Yes. But given that I'm going to be the only one playing for whatever reason, whether it's because we're quarantined alone or because Christian's out at a guys' night or whatever the reason is, if it's given that I'm playing alone, then a nice thing about that is I get all the power.
Yeah, so here's a question then. Is there times when we're not playing solo that you have to give up some of that power and it kind of like irks you throughout the game that we're playing? Like in your head you're like, I wouldn't do that.
Well, usually I'll just say that to you, but nicely. I'll be like, I'm not a witch,
no,
everyone
I'm not
out
saying.
there. It'll probably be more like a discussion among us, like, oh, I don't know if we should spend our move that way, and here's why, or I think we should commit to a different action this turn. But so it's usually not a hidden thing that I like push down and just harbor resentment.
Slowly start to hate games.
Mm-hmm. But I do notice that like kind of after the fact, like if we're finished playing it, and especially if we lost, I will think, I've got an itch to play that one solo. And I think the underlying reason is
I can do it better.
Because I want to try. I'm not saying I can. I want to try to do it better.
Yeah, I get that. If you've listened to us before, like you enjoy perfecting one part of the game, whether it's a certain class, a certain character, a person, and so you're just drawn to get better and better at the one thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So much so that you're willing to play it solo. Not like it's hard decision for you to make, but you're looking to do that, and so playing it solo is one way to scratch that itch.
Yeah. I think that's fair to say. Although I do miss having your skill set at the table often because I only have one skill set.
And what is that skill set again?
You're very flexible and you can
Physically.
react. And yeah, no.
No.
And you can react to things better than I can.
Okay.
So there is still a spot for you at our table.
Thank
Christian.
you. Thank you. I appreciate that. One thing that I've noticed in watching you play, there's been a couple times where I just get home late, or I just am not ready to play a game at night, long day at work, whatever, and you're playing whatever game again, let's just say Marvel Champions. Mm-hmm. I notice how hard it seems to be as a solo player. Not just that game specifically, but it seems to me that in the games that we're going to talk about and the ones that I've seen you play solo, that it's difficult.
Yeah, so there are some cons, I guess you could say, to playing solo that typically always come up. And that's one of them. it's a lot of mental energy because you're the only one that has the responsibility of remembering all the rules. And if you've listened to our podcast before, that is a very big concern for me. I take rules very seriously because I want the win to be genuine in my eyes. So, I give myself grace when I'm learning stuff, I think, maybe. But I do want to play to the rules to the best of my ability. So if I'm unsure of something, I won't just go with it. I'll look it up.
So you'll stop and look it up.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen you do that, but I assume that it happens.
Yeah. Well, usually before I play something solo, I've learned it in a multiplayer setting.
Yeah, that's true.
So all the rule responsibility falls on you and all the game choices fall on you, which is a fun thing and a hard thing.
Okay.
Because it can be mentally exhausting to have to make the decisions every single turn, all the time, and having all the responsibility. Like if you take a break to go to the bathroom or get chips, someone's not picking it up for you. Like you have to remember what round you were on or where in the round sequence you were, which, by the way, little pro tip, always finish the round as a solo player before
any breaks.
Before any breaks. You got to plan that strategically because you just won't remember. So that's one con. Another con is it's usually very time consuming as far as setting up and tearing down because you are, the only person that's playing the game.
What?
So you have to do it all. Unless, your husband walks in from the other room at the end and then he helps you tear it down. So,
which I do all the time.
Do you want to tell everyone my dirty, dark secret about tearing down games?
Oh, how you never do it.
It's not intentional.
It's my pet peeve with playing games with my wonderful wife, Angela here. We will just finish playing in our most recent episode, Root. There's so many pieces of paper. That's not the right word. There's so many pieces on the board. There's cards, there's meeples, there's dice, there's bags, there's boards, there's so much stuff. And then we're done, and she's like, okay. And then she gets up and, does dishes or something. Something she was thinking about the whole time. She's like, oh, I shouldn't be playing this game. I should probably be doing laundry. And then she'll go and do the laundry, which is great for this example, and then leave the whole teardown to me. And then it takes 45 minutes.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true because I think it's not that I was thinking about laundry the whole game. It's just that as we were finishing, I suddenly realized I better not forget to switch over the laundry from the washer to the dryer before we go upstairs. So I quick get up to go do that. And I finished that in a minute. But then by then I've forgotten about the teardown and you're still down.
Yeah. And then I've noticed that this happens more when either you lose or we lose.
Oh yeah, no, if
you get up fast from the table and you're just like I'm out. And then I have to put everything away.
Okay. So it might be slightly intentional when I lose a very competitive game. Because I just need a minute.
What are they? I just can't.
I just can't. It's to preserve our marriage.
Okay.
So
help me preserve our games by putting them away properly.
Well, you know where I make up for it is in solo gaming because I do it all myself.
That's true, but that's the core of solo games.
So it doesn't help you at all?
No.
Okay.
Because I'm usually working when you play solo games.
Oh, it's so...
Which does
so
help
funny.
us.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, now you all know my deep and dark, dirty secret about gaming.
Yep.
If you are ever with us for a game night, just so you know, I clean up during game night. Christian is specifically talking about when it's just the two of us.
Yep.
I don't like leave the party of people to go get more chips while everyone tears down.
Sometimes I've purposely left games on the kitchen table not put away.
Just to see if I
tear
it down.
And it's like, oh, they're still here the next morning, so I guess I'll put it away.
Well, I can't be good at everything.
You can try.
I can try to do that one. And then, well, okay, while we're still on the topic, I will say another general thought about playing solo, which at first glance might be a con, and it definitely is a con for you, is that they are very often quite difficult to win.
Yeah.
So I really can't think... I can think of varying degrees of difficulty in our solo game collection, but I can't think of a single solo game we have that's easy to win.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that I don't enjoy solo games. That's probably one of the main ones. Whenever I play a game, whether it's a board game or a video game or whatever, and if it's overwhelmingly hard the first couple times playing it, first 10 minutes of a video game, it's like, this is not fun. You know, I am out.
Yeah, no, I get that because I want to feel like I have a chance.
Yeah, and there's a few that we've played in our years where I feel like just looking at the box, I'm like, there's no chance we're going to win this game tonight. Because I just know what's coming.
Yeah. Well,
and then to have that happen every night playing solo, I can't do it.
Right. And that's where we definitely differ on this one because in general, we would agree that we want to feel like we have a chance. If we feel like it's hopeless, I mean, why even open the game? And we would probably also agree that we don't like losing, but we differ in how much of a pounding we're willing to take, maybe.
Yeah, or you look forward to a challenge in games, and I don't.
You're there for the experience for sure.
Yep.
Which I am too, but it's different. Mm-hmm. So I can play Root solo. I'm just thinking of 2-3 weeks ago. 5 times in a row solo, not all in one sitting, and lost every single one. And I'm still not discouraged.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, I know it
really
does to
bad.
you. But I don't feel like it's hopeless. That's the key.
Oh, man.
Like it needs to feel like it's doable. And I don't know how to describe that in a tangible black and white way. It's more just like this feeling I get like, oh, this is possible. I just need to get better or...
There's light at the end of the tunnel type situation.
And most games will offer a way for you to make the solo variant easier or harder, which if you're making it harder, I don't know.
You're crazy.
You crazy. So, or maybe you're just super intelligent, and that's cool too. Most games will offer you like, hey, in order to make this easier, you can do this, or an adjustment of some sort. And honestly, you could probably think of some on your own as you're playing the solo game, like, oh, not drawing a card for the enemy that first round would give me a little break and time to set up. So maybe that would be an adjustment I could make.
I would 100% do that if I played more solo games. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, that rule, I'm not going to do that rule right now because I would die. Or there's no way getting out of this if I do A, B, and C. I would just be like, done, skip, new round.
Oh, it's like nails on a chalkboard.
You have goosebumps after hearing that.
Because okay, can I just pick it apart for a second?
That's fine. I gave your secret away.
Because I feel like if you're going to make an adjustment in solo gaming to make it easier, great. But you have to decide what that is from the start. You can't just be in round 5, roll the dice, get a bad roll, and be like, I'm going to change that roll. That's not an adjustment that's not a variant of the game. That's just you changing the face of a die. That's
the
cheating.
The reroll variant.
That's cheating. So, I don't know.
What if you didn't know that variant was in play until you rolled badly?
Yeah, exactly. Look at it. Yeah, I wish you guys could see the sly fox that sits over here trying to cheat his way into a win. So that's maybe a distinction. Like for me, in order for me to feel like I played the solo game, ready for this, Christian?
Yes.
With integrity.
Oh wow, you pulled that word out.
I
Nice.
need to know what adjustments I'm making up front so that I feel like, okay, I want it on that difficulty level.
Okay.
And then next time, I'll try to do a different difficulty level.
I get it.
But not just like the random die changing.
I get it. I would never do it, but I understand.
Or I draw a treachery card and, oh, don't like that one.
Yep.
Just going to reshuffle that in. That's not a rule variant.
Could be. I think it can be.
Okay.
And I think
Agree to disagree.
Yep, that's right. Well, yeah, I mean, we obviously have very different takes on solo games. I will tell my most recent solo story at the end of the episode, I think.
Oh, you're going to save it till the end.
Should I save it or should I do it now? I'll just do it now. I played Arkham Horror over the weekend. I really just wanted to try these new, not heroes, investigators. You and I had played it like 2 times, and I was like, oh, here's one we haven't done yet. I just wanted to see what was up, and I was playing it solo, and I always forgot what step I was on. You know, did I take 3 actions, or did I only do 2? I don't know. I'm just going to do another action. Whereas you would probably say, well, I'm just going to say I did 3 to be safe.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point.
Right?
Yeah, my golden rule when I play solo, my golden rule internally is when in doubt, always make it harder for myself.
That's terrible.
Well, because I don't know.
No,
I'm trying to defend myself, but it's just a key difference in our...
Definitely. And then, like, everything that you talked about earlier happened to me because I don't do this very often, but I just really wanted to play. I didn't know what round I was on. I didn't know what step I did. And then you were gone doing some grocery shopping on the weekend, and I was home with the kids and they were watching a movie or something, and then that was over, so I had to get up and go do something else. And then I sat back down and I was like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and call this a win.
Yeah, I don't know what round I'm on. I don't even know if I completed that round.
And I did so good because of that. I got all the points at the end, and I upgraded all my cards.
I can't even, you guys. Somebody...
No, it was tough, and I remember sitting there thinking like, man, I got to think of how to play this game every single step. There's no break because I've got to do all the things.
Yeah.
And I get it. I had an itch to scratch, and it worked
A little bit.
But I don't find myself like running out there to play that game again solo, or quite honestly very many others.
Any games.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your personality, especially when it comes through the aspects of it that come through when you play games. I don't think solo gaming would be very fun for you.
No, it's not. And even in like, I mean, I've mentioned video games a couple times, but like, I will hardly play video games alone. Like, that's just not fun for me.
Right.
Like, I enjoy the experience with friends.
Yeah.
Whether that's online or going to someone's house and doing it there. But, yeah, that's just the way I enjoy the entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
So, Ange, why don't we take a little break here?
Okay.
And we'll come back and you can talk about the 3 games that you've been playing a lot of solo. Yeah. Sound good?
Yeah. See you then.
All right, guys. Solo games. Angela, you have played so many solo games the past 3 weeks, especially. because of quarantine. And you've done it well before that. So the three that we want to talk about today are Wingspan, Abomination, which we've done episodes on. Yes. So you can definitely go back in the catalog and listen to those if you have no idea how we feel about them. I think you'll get a good idea after hearing Angela talk about them from the solo side of things. Mm-hmm. But there's a new one called, not a new one, but
new to us.
New to the show, called Robinson Crusoe. Classic co-op game. It's been out since like 2012 or something crazy. Second edition came out a couple years ago. We have it. Been playing it.
Won a bunch of awards when it first came out.
It's really is one of the first co-op games that kind of blew everyone's mind. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about those three. And I mean Angela's going to talk about those three in her experience. So what do you want to start with?
Well, I'll say first that solo games maybe fall into two big headings for me. There are solo games that are cooperative games where you've just removed players from the table until it's just you. So cooperative games are always the table versus the game, and playing it solo doesn't change anything about that. You're just the only one at the table.
Okay, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Marvel Champions is a good example of that.
Yeah. Mansions of Madness. Robinson Crusoe is going to be one of those examples there. And that's why I wanted to talk about it. One of the reasons. And then the other heading would be anything that is created competitive. It's a competitive game. And so there has to be some sort of bot or automation that acts like the other player because the game is intended to be competitive amongst the players at the table. And since you're the only player at the table, the game now has to take on a new mechanic of some sort.
Yeah, it has to mimic an actual player.
Yes. Yep. And then maybe arguably the third category of solo games would be like the luck ones, which I would say are like solitaire, like luck of the draw, and roll and writes to some extent. Like now, okay, don't at me. I know that roll and writes have some strategy. I would agree with you there. But at the end of the day, if you're just rolling terribly, there's nothing you can do to make that better.
Yeah. So Vegas would agree.
Yeah, I'm just saying. So those are maybe like the three headings. So how should I break this down for our listeners out there for these three games?
Yeah, why don't we just start with a game, and if you want to explain just briefly how the solo experience works and what type of solo experience it is. Is it one of those cooperative games that's just not dumbed down but pared down to just be for one player? Start there and then just talk about, why you enjoy playing this game solo.
Okay.
Does that work?
Which one do you want me to start with?
Let's do Wingspan. That's our more recent episode of our show compared to the other games. So why don't we start there?
Okay, so Wingspan is going to fall under the competitive heading of what I just described. So it's normally a competitive game, and it remains a competitive game. And this is even when you play it solo, and it is controlled by an Automa. Automa is actually, the Automa Factory is actually a trademarked thing from Stonemaier Games, which Scythe, Wingspan, Tapestry, just to name probably their biggest, most recent three.
Yeah, Viviculture.
Yep. There's another one that have all used the Automa Factory. So that is something that they came up with, I think, first for viticulture because it was set in Italy. That game was set in Italy. And so Automa is the Italian word for automation. Mm. And so they called it the Automa in that game, and then it just stuck.
So in every one of their games, that is what the solo variant is.
Yes. So the Wingspan Automa is like the person I'm playing against. Because normally you're playing against the people at the table.
Yeah.
So that is kind of the origin of what Automa is. And I think Stonemaier Games does a really great job of giving that experience. They have put a lot of thought into the Automa factory. And if I were them or anyone that worked there, I'd be really proud of the fact that this is something they incorporate into all their games. I hope I'm not wrong there in saying it's all their games, but I think the Automa factory exists.
From the extensive research
yes.
that we've done by looking at our shelf, the answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if you listened to our Wingspan episode, you would know this. If you didn't, I'll give you a little teaser, and then you can go back and listen. One of the things I love about Wingspan as a multiplayer experience is that it's low-key competitive. You just feel like you could have some mellow music on in the background. Everyone could just be like having snacks, maybe even some conversation once people know the rules of the game. And then you just kind of, this game is powering through, like the gears are turning for the game in the background. So it's not like we're getting our feelings hurt because people are being aggressive towards one another or not trading two wheat for a sheep.
Oh my gosh. It's not one of those games where what I do directly affects the other players in a big way.
Right. So what I love about the Automa for this is that it maintains that feeling. You feel like you're playing against another person, but it still feels like really low-key competitive. Like the Automa does a really good job of acting like another player, maintaining the original game experience as best as possible. And like most solo games that were originally competitive, there is a lot of work to do to learn, I think. You know, it's because if it's cooperative to begin with, you pretty much already know how to play it solo. You just subtract people from the table.
Yeah.
But if it's competitive to begin with, you got to learn how the robotic component is working.
How the robot works. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, you do have to put some work into that, and they put together a great Automa booklet that comes with the base game.
Yeah, it's a whole nother rule book.
It's a whole nother rule book, and they give great notes as they do in the multiplayer rule book. They give notes about why they prefer you to play a certain way versus this. And Christian, for you, they give a round tracker.
Ooh.
So, which is completely not necessary, but I found that I can't picture playing it without that because there's so much mental energy spent on other stuff. I don't want to have to try to remember what round I'm on. So that's really awesome. I love that. And I love that it has, I don't know how to describe it. It seems like it might be winning until you start scoring things up at the end because it plays a slightly different than a normal player. Like it doesn't collect food. It just takes food from you.
Okay.
And it doesn't actually play birds on a player mat. It just gets face up birds or face down birds and points for that at the end of the game. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things you mentioned earlier in the show is that most of these games, when you play solo, are fairly difficult. So I'll ask, have you ever won playing Wingspan solo?
This is a 0-win experience for me. But in my defense, which I have very little defense here.
You're defending yourself against a robot.
Yeah. This is my most recent one that I've learned the Automa version of.
Okay.
Or the single-player version
Maybe
of.
the least play time.
There we go. So I've probably only played it 3 times solo.
Okay.
And I've lost all 3
But
times.
we're talking about it, so it's been a great experience.
Yeah, no, I'm not deterred by that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say of all the solo games that I know we have, this one is not close to the top for me to ever try.
Interesting. Why?
I don't know.
I would have said the opposite
really?
for you. Yeah.
I just kind of feel like I know how to play this one with other people. Mm-hmm. It's all about the eggs, you know?
It's all about the eggs.
So,
you know what's interesting is the Automa collects a ridiculous amount of eggs.
Yeah, I would love that. And
so
he would probably beat me, and I just gave my strategy to everyone else, but...
I'm going to just read this designer's note to you from the rulebook. Don't be concerned that the Automa collects birds and eggs faster than you can.
He can't do it faster than
the
me.
The Automa's eggs compete against the eggs, tucked cards, and cached food that you will gather.
Okay.
So that was a little bit shocking to begin with. We were like, that Automa just collected 20 eggs, and there's no way I'm going to get that. But then at the end, like the designer's note just said, I get to count all my tucked cards and all my cached food, and it doesn't have that. So it needs to make up for it somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So if you had to give it an arbitrary grade for a Wingspan solo experience, what would you give it?
Like a school grade? Like a report card?
It's arbitrary. It could be 3 fish or 2 wheats and a sheep.
And then I don't have to explain it. People can just guess.
It's just arbitrary.
I'll give it a C+.
Oh, okay. So it's just Christian in high school.
Just a little bit better than middle of the road.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So that's Wingspan. Definitely check it out if you have it and own it, and you didn't know there was a solo variant. Check it out. Mm-hmm. Let's jump to the next game, which is probably your favorite game
right now. Yeah.
Ever?
Oh, the game itself or the solo version of it?
Both.
Yeah, good question. It's probably not my favorite game ever. I don't know if I'm prepared to make that kind of statement.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Abomination, which goes way back for us, so far back to episode 2.
Yes.
It was our first full episode of the show after our intro. So, Ange, Abomination solo. This is an actual recent release from Plaid Hat Games that they added a solo variant.
Yeah, so it's not something you pick up. If you get Abomination, the box, I guess, core set is what it is. It's just the only game there is of Abomination.
Yeah, it didn't ship with solo rules.
No, so you just print off the rules. I'm sure Plaid Hat.
This is on their website.
Yep, just has the rules. You printed it off for me, so I didn't actually find it on the website. And it's just 2 extra pages of rules that change some mechanics because Abomination falls into the... Originally, it's a competitive game, so the solo is going to change mechanics of the game because you're not playing against the game when you're playing multiplayer.
Yeah.
You're playing against each other.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This solo variant is just phenomenal. It's so good. It's so good, you guys.
So from what I've seen, and you don't have to explain every little detail about it, but it drastically changes the game. There's not... obviously you're doing the same thing, but
right.
The way that they introduced a solo variant and the robot, in quotes, that you're playing against acts nothing like another player acts when you're playing against real people.
Correct. Yes. So whereas Wingspan feels the most like I'm playing against another player, Abomination solo variant is completely unlike the multiplayer experience from the robot's end. I still play with the same rules.
Yeah, you're doing the exact same thing, except now you have to worry about this new robot and his minions.
Yeah,
right?
So, gosh, the best thing about this is that they have created not just a solo variant, but like a story. I mean, the story is phenomenal. I don't know if I should give it away.
No, you shouldn't.
So, if you want, you can look it up on Plaid Hat. They give...
Oh, you mean the story just for the solo game?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If they can download it, let's talk about that.
Okay. So what has happened is they give a background. In the original game, everyone is playing a scientist.
Yeah, like Dr. Frankenstein style scientist.
And we've all been hired by the creature to create a companion for it. And we're trying to do that in our own ways.
Yeah, faster than the team.
Faster
Or
than
the
each
other
other.
guys, yeah.
And get our monster to be not only there, but alive at the end of the game. And we're trying to do that while Captain Walton is trying to...
Find you.
Yeah,
Or
like
deter.
kind of stop us from doing so. Or now in the solo game, the story changes where it's like the creature has kidnapped you and is basically like forcing you to create a creature for it, a companion creature. And you're all alone in doing so. And then in the city of Paris, Captain Walton and his investigators are going to be out trying to find you and interrogate you. If they do happen to find you, you get to either bribe them off with money. You get to or you could take your chances and try to, like, I call it give them the stink eye, because you roll the dice and if you get an eye, you escape them. It's kind of like, it's like a dodge. Like,
Yeah.
You saw me, but you didn't get to...
Slipped out of the way.
Yeah, slipped out of the way. Or you can kill them and get their parts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But-
So the game creates like a patrol that you have to avoid as you go to each location to do what you got to do to build your monster.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's really interesting, and that's not a mechanic in the original game.
No, not at all.
And but it utilizes all the same cards and components of the original game. There's no new pieces to go by, and there's very few things to adjust deck-wise. And so that has been a really, really great experience. The story is just top-notch. They did a really good job of creating this solo variant, using all the same components and boards that was given in the original game, and making it an experience in and of itself.
Yeah, what I think is cool being on the outside of the solo thing is the game's been out for about 8 months, 6 months or so, and they're just now coming around to making a solo variant, which is pretty cool. Like, and it works really well. I feel like maybe a lot of them, or a handful of them, are just kind of thrown in last minute. Oh, how would we play this game solo? I don't know, just deal cards to this robot dude and you draw one every round. It's like, that seems kind of boring. This one, there's actually thought put into it, which is cool.
And it does say, I think, I remember them saying when I printed it out that they kind of made it for times such as these. Like, hey, everyone might be inside here and you might not be with people as you're social distancing or quarantining. Is that a word?
Yes,
So
quarantini.
So they're like, hey, if you have Abomination on your shelf and normally would bring it to game night, we don't want this to just be on the shelf of shame now that there's no people around. We're going to give you a way to play it, and hopefully it's as good. And I would say it's great.
That's
it's
cool.
It's a great experience.
Yeah, and
are you going to ask me my win-loss record?
Yeah, let's continue with that. I am terrible at this game when we play it together. I think I've won once out of the handful of times that we have played it together. Most of the time, listen to episode 2, I lose awfully, terribly.
By a margin?
Yeah,
by a significant margin?
So many points. Mm-hmm. How are you at solo version of Abomination?
I have never won.
Okay, so you're 0 for whatever, Wingspan and Abomination.
Yeah, now Abomination I've played quite a bit more times solo. I mean, when was the new solo variant released?
Like at the end of March, or the 20th or something.
Yeah, so we're only like 3 weeks into that solo variant. I've probably played it 15 times.
That's probably true.
And I have not won. But it does say to, regardless of win or loss, still add up your victory points at the end.
Okay.
And in that way, I'm getting better.
So you're getting higher and higher. Okay.
I'm getting more and more victory points.
That's cool.
I just can't seem to get my monster alive before Captain Walton interrogates the crap out of me.
That was always my problem with playing the regular game.
Yeah.
Is trying to just, flip the switch and make him alive. So I kind of understand that. Mm-hmm. You have anything else to say about Abomination? Other than you love it?
I mean, I could just go on and on. Yeah. No, it's, I was just impressed. A lot of thought went into it. Well done. I would give it an A.
A, that's great. So let's jump to another game that we have never talked about on the show, Robinson Crusoe. It's the classic co-op game that's been out for years, like we mentioned. So, Ange, why don't you dive in?
Okay, so this would fall under the cooperative table versus the game, except now you're the only one at the table. So the game mechanics don't change at all with, some slight exceptions. If you've played Robinson Crusoe, you'll know what I talk about. You know what I mean. There's an adjustment during the morale tracker, but honestly, it's the same game. If you know how to play it multiplayer, you know how to play it solo.
Yeah, you can easily just plop down and start.
There's Robinson Crusoe is basically there's different scenarios you can play. But basically it's just like a desert island game. So it's like surviving certain scenarios while you're on a desert island. So when you're solo, there's only one mouth to feed, not 2, 3, or 4. But there's only one person's meeples to go do things every turn instead of 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah. The ratios still end up being the same depending on however many people you have. So the game is still as difficult as it would be if you had 4 people.
Yep. This is where I think most of the solo games in our collection fall under. So just to give you an idea, Robinson Crusoe is a cooperative game that has a solo variant because one person can just play against the game. Same with Spirit Island, Lord of the Rings, Journey to Middle-earth, Arkham Horror LCG, Marvel Champions, Mansions of Madness, Detective, Chronicles of Crime. All of these fit into that category. So the mechanics of the game haven't changed at all, unlike Wingspan or Abomination. My favorite thing is that the game is the same, so I don't have to spend a lot of mental energy, and that the story is still there. I love that it's very immersive.
There's a lot of scenarios in that one, too.
Mm-hmm. And that I get all the power. They get all the power to decide where people are going to be committed every turn. Not that that causes fights in general when we play the game at all, but I do get all the decision-making power. And I like that this Robinson Crusoe specifically offers quite a few variants so for a solo player. So they play with another person who has different capabilities than a normal player would have, called Friday.
Gives you
Friday's like your helper.
Like a half another player.
Yeah. And then you get to play with a dog. Mm-hmm. So the dog has even more limited capabilities, but can't die. So that's nice. And then there's other things that maybe you can adjust to make it easier. As we said, there's scenarios. So I've played only what I think are the easiest scenarios when I play solo. I don't try to go for the very, very difficult ones.
Yeah, this is one of those games that I would say is one of those brutal experiences that when I look at the box, I'm like, oh man, we're going to lose.
It's very hard.
Before we even set it up.
Yeah. It's hard to stay motivated with this game, which is why when we play it multiplayer, we still include the extra players that the solo gets.
Yeah, we do everything possible to make it easier on us, and we still lose.
We won our last one.
We won once.
Yeah, you should remember that. It should be a shining star.
I do remember it, but it's like 1 in 45. It's not that many, but
so it is a very hard game, but for solo play, all these games are hard.
That's true.
All these games are hard. I'm sure there's people out there that have found quite a bit of success, like in terms of win-loss success playing solo games. That's not necessarily what draws me back or deters me from solo games. I just need a really good challenge, and depending on what mood I'm in, maybe. If I want a really good story, I might choose a different solo game versus just wanting to like chill out and relax. Then I might just, or if I want to just listen to an audiobook, well, then I just do a roll and write, and I can do two things at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, that's great. That's our 3 solo games that we did want to hit in this part of the episode. Let's take a quick break. One last time. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up in a minute. Well, all right. We hope you enjoyed our little chat about solo games.
Bonus chat.
Yeah. I think we had a lot of fun. Angela, I know you've been dying to talk about solo games a little bit.
Yeah, just wanting, maybe not on this platform necessarily, but just with you. Like, I've wanted to share my solo game experience, and you said, how about you do that for people?
That's right.
And I was like, okay, but we do have a married and bored podcast, so how is solo games going to fit there?
It works. It's games. We just got to talk about games on the show, and no matter how we do it, it fits.
So thanks for indulging me specifically, us.
As we were sitting here talking about solo games, I think we need to do some homework, and I thought of our homework assignments.
You're giving me a homework assignment?
Yeah, you should be jumping for joy.
Okay, go.
So, I think we should each play a different solo game that we didn't talk about.
Okay.
And then come back in an episode or two and just do a little recap.
Okay.
So I'm gonna
update.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you one that is not your favorite game.
Are you doing that on purpose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everdell.
Oh, a chicken sausage game.
Chicken sausage game. Okay. Yep. I think it'd be interesting to just hear how that one goes. Mainly because you and I didn't know that one was solo until about 4 days ago. And it's been on our shelf since Christmas.
Yeah.
So I think that's just kind of funny. And mine is probably the only solo game that I'm interested in playing is Outer Rim. Star Wars Outer Rim.
I was about to say it's not fair that you get to pick mine and yours, but that's what I would have picked for you.
Yeah. So it's fine. And in all the games that we have that are solo compatible, that is my number 1. Number 2 is Marvel Champions. So for me, it's got to at least have some sort of theme that I am interested in. Mm-hmm. And if I can look at comic book cards or Star Wars stuff, fine.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And maybe, you know what, maybe you already know that solo gaming is not the thing for you. But just if you're open to the idea, I hope this has encouraged you or given you some food for thought. And I just wanted to say that we, with the exception of the roll and write game, That's So Clever, we have never bought a game because it's solo.
That's true.
But we have a lot of solo games. So just take a peek at your shelf and see what you have. So we talked about Wingspan, Abomination, Robinson Crusoe. The other games that we just have in our collection that also have a solo variant are Spirit Island, Lord of the Rings, Arkham Horror, Marvel Champions, Mansions of Madness, Detective, Chronicles of Crime, Everdell, Outer Rim, Scythe, Root. I mean, there's a lot of variety out there, and we don't have a huge collection.
No.
So,
but based on those numbers, it's like not 40%, but like 25% of what we have has a solo option.
So there's definitely a lot of board game makers are doing it.
Yeah.
And it's something that can add a different flavor to a game that you think you've gotten used to, or can keep you occupied when, there's a global pandemic.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to extend this homework assignment to everyone else out there who is listening. So if you have a solo board game that you have at home and you haven't tried it, or you're just not a big fan of solo games in general like me, why don't you give it a try and see how you like it, and then report back to us and let us know what that is and how you felt about it, and is it something that you would, pursue further down the road?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's kind of like when we tell the kids, like, you got to try a new food. Just try one bite, and if you don't like it after that bite, then you don't need to do it again.
Yeah.
We want you to try one time.
That's true. So why don't you guys do that? Give us a message. You can find us where you can find us. Instagram at Married and Board. Email hello@marriedandboard.com. We love to hear from you. Anything else that you want to say about solo games, Ange, before we sign off?
They will always be near and dear to my heart. And even though I don't learn about the other people at the table, I learn about myself when I play solo games.
There you go.
So it's a little bit of free therapy.
Free therapy in solo board games. There you go. Well, we hope, again, everyone's staying healthy, staying safe. Mm-hmm. We'll talk to you later.
Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Married and Board podcast. And guess what? We have a website where you can listen to podcast episodes and so much more. Find us at marriedandboard.com, or you can email us at hello@marriedandboard.com, or follow us on Instagram at marriedandboard. Music in this episode is by Joseph McDade. See you next time.